Hello everyone, I hope you had a great day today and you're all relaxed and attentive to join in. So today I'm really excited to go live with William and Tina from British Columbia, Canada, who lead a futuristic marketing agency called Hiilite. Hiilite was the winner for the 2020 Canadian Business Excellence Award for Private Businesses. So before I welcome William and Tina aboard, just a bit about William and Tina. So William Walczak is the CEO and director at Hiilite. He has a passion for technology, brands, and business. William believes that maximum potential is achieved only when the right technology works with the brightest creative minds. He wants to empower those around him to achieve the best results. Tina Walczak is the Chief Design Officer at Hiilite and the Vice President of Kelowna Women in Business. Tina beautifully combines her passion for design with keen business focus. Creating innovative and detailed work that pushes boundaries, Tina is committed to producing strong brands for clients that accurately capture their overall business strategy. So hello, William and Tina. How are you?
Well, we're really, really well. How are you? Thank you so much for having us on. We're excited.
Thank you for being a part of this. We've been really looking forward to hosting you over here. So would you like to share a bit about Hiilite Creative Group? What do you guys do over there? And what is it all about?
So what we do is we're a marketing agency. We're a full service marketing agency. We're really on the strategic end and design end of things. And we work with clients really all around the world to help find opportunities and leverage marketing to find new markets, find better connections with clients, identify return on investment through marketing vehicles.
And I have some design examples. Can I show you some of the things that we do?
Sure, of course.
Great. So we focus a lot on branding as well. So I don't know if anybody can see that. Can you see this? Is that okay?
Yes, there is a little glare, but yes, I can see this. Okay.
Okay, maybe I'll get you to hold one.
Perfect. Here, I'll be a prop. There we go.
There we go. So we build.
So what is this?
This is called a brandscape. So basically what we do is if a client has a startup or a product line, it really doesn't matter what business, we create the overall design and aesthetic to their brand. And then what we would do is develop this on all platforms. So this would go on their website, onto a product store, maybe they're on Amazon. And this is basically the side that I manage, and then Will does the Google Analytics side.
There you go.
And we also do things like logo design as well. So that's
I saw your logo. It's pretty attractive and quite flashy. It's something which catches one's attention like immediately. So great work. So
thank you.
In terms of marketing, strategy, design, brand development, a few questions that I would like to ask on behalf of our audience, because in Pakistan right now, we are transitioning towards digital, and most of us are struggling to make that transition because as a collectivist culture, we are more used to face-to-face interaction, working together. So making that transition to digital and making it more pronounced in our lives, it's quite a challenge. So from that perspective, the first question that I would like to ask is that in the midst of COVID-19, unemployment is on the rise and small businesses are floundering and job openings are few. So do you think that developing a personal brand can separate you from the rest when you're pitching yourself for a job or any commercial project? And if yes, how does one effectively go about it?
So do you want to take it, or I just want to make sure we don't talk over one another. So just so you know, I think this is like, while there's a lot of doom and gloom, I think this is actually the best time to be, in effect, starting a new business. And even if you're an existing business, look at this as an opportunity to start anew. Some of the most successful companies have come out of recessionary periods. So some of the most successful companies have developed in periods where there is scarcity, there is shift, there is seemingly a complete change in the guard as what market opportunity is. So to extend on that, I think a personal brand or any brand is unbelievably important in differentiating and communicating what your value is and what you're presenting and what you're bringing to customers.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the great ways of personal branding is you really don't need a lot. All you need to do is have a network of people and connections and actually just be there for people. Right now, more than ever, people need our support. They need community. So by reaching out and supporting others, you will find that you'll make stronger connections and people will want to work with you.
Absolutely. Like this is the time there, people are going to remember how you make them feel. So right now, like if you can provide value, if you can somehow help people find opportunity, like what you're doing here as far as this, talking to different people to try to figure out what's working, what's not working, what are some of the lessons people can, if you can provide that kind of value and in a way that isn't commodity branded. And by that, I mean like that you stand out and people remember, it's like, oh, okay, I remember this. I remember who they are. And I remember the show. Next time they think about management consulting, you're at the top of the list.
One of the things that Will has been doing lately is he's been baking bread, and this is a new thing for him. He's never done that before, but he's been making it almost every night. And what we've been doing with the extra is bringing it to our clients and dropping it off at their door. So there are little things that you can do to develop your brand and make people feel supported and connected to you that are simple and don't really cost a whole lot.
So, for example, if I am someone who recently lost her job and I want to find a new job, but then again, the employer receives tons of CVs similar to mine with similar academic credentials and work experience. So is there something that I can do in terms of developing my personal brand or the way I design my resume or the portfolio of my work or anything that can help me stand out in front of the employer when I'm applying for jobs?
There's a quote that Will always says, and he says 99% of success is showing up. So being on lives similar to this, connecting with people as much as you can is the most important and critical thing you can do right now for your personal brand.
So, what can people do who are out of work right now? Part of that, so part of their personal brand, like I think a lot of people are focused on what they want to do or what their competition is doing. I don't care what you want to do. I don't care what your competition is doing. Right now is a complete opportunity for change. Listen to your customers. We have now better tools and better access to connect with our potential customers. Let them tell you what they're looking for. While a lot of people are focusing on the negatives of what's happening, there are companies who are going through phenomenal growth periods. See what they
Can you share a few examples of companies who are going through these growth periods right now?
So yeah, digital marketing is one actually. Construction is another one because there are a ton of actual construction companies that are still now having to finish projects even faster.
Medical supplies.
Medical supplies. There's a lot of healthcare opportunities. Here's one, and this is a project and a client that I want to talk about. This is a local flower shop, and this is just to illustrate that this isn't just online. So a local flower shop, we've been working with them for a few years. They're called Passionate Blooms, and you can look them up. But they've had, we had them on one of our Monday noon calls, and we're like, okay, this is a change. We need to change the consumers we're going after.
She nearly was in closure after COVID hit, and she was panicking. She was stressed out because she was about to lose her business, much like many of us. And she needed to make a change. So that's the beginning of the story. Exactly.
So rather than being the traditional floral shop, you're like, okay, what do people actually need? They're staying at home. They want to stay healthy. They're looking for plants. They're looking for things that they can tend to. And so she's changed into that. She's now focusing on plants, now also doing live plant auctions and plants, so connecting with her audience in a different way. Her revenue for the month of April, she called me yesterday and she said, okay, April wrapped up and we were up $11,000 for a local flower shop. Her profit doubled because her employees didn't want to come in. So she had to do the work. So her payroll is down, her revenue is up, her profit is doubled. So
she's tired.
She's tired, but So to give you an idea, there isn't like a specific sector. There are so many different kinds of opportunities. Where I think, and this is where we'll connect on the MBA front, think about who the audience is. Think about how you can pivot your product or your service into an essential category. Essentials are up. I think it was 126% in my last talk, 126% over the month of January.
Wow. That's quite a spike.
Absolutely. The other thing to be mindful of, and there was a really interesting. There was April 16th was a massive increase in e-commerce sales, like a massive spike, and understanding why helps shed some opportunity. Do you care to guess why would April 16th be an important date? This is in North America, but there are a lot of e-commerce sales that come from other parts of the world. Why would April 16th be an important day?
So from what I understand from what you just said is that in this crisis, it's very important to reinvent the way we connect with our customers. So although traditional channels might be falling apart, but that doesn't mean that we just sit back and say, oh, the doomsday is here and nothing's going to be okay again. I feel it's a lot about how we reinvent the way we look at different industries and different segments, I suppose. So going forward with my other question. So since I promised the audience that we would be sharing tips and insights on how to become successful online. So from that perspective, the first question that I would like to ask is that what are the basic steps of finding customers online and how does one get started? Can you please share some learnings from your beginner's playbook?
Absolutely. Do you want to start?
This is the master. I'm going to let him talk about it.
I think so. I think we need to wear a couple hats. One is we need to be a data scientist. We need to take a look at where, especially in the digital space, and this is what we do. Where are the opportunities? Where are the trends? Where's traffic coming from? And there's some really good tools, and I'll touch on Google AdWords in a minute, Google Analytics, Google Trends. There's some SEO tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush. So there's a whole bunch of data available. And I've just cited a number of different statistics, and there's a ton of them. But it's looking at all of those and saying, okay, what can I make sense of? What top of the funnel? If you think about this as a digital funnel, where are the opportunities from a data? And then you have to think about, and you have to take off your data scientist hat and put on your potential client hat and say, what if I were looking for this kind of service or product? What things am I concerned about? What messages do I want to see? What does my journey look like? And that's where you think about the design, the UX, UI consideration. And I think people are often, I think I could talk at length about this. So if at any point you want me to move on to the next question, just
sure.
I think what would be really good is if we use an example of a business and maybe we can walk through what a business can do in a specific segment. Is there someone in particular that is struggling right now on this call that you know?
Yeah. I love doing the live demonstration thing, but maybe we won't do it quite live.
So today. If anyone who needs some insight on how to become successful online and wants to start with the basics, is there anyone who wants to pull in their question?
Yeah.
Okay, if you do, that would be a good start because then we can walk through the process of how we would help.
Absolutely.
So if there's anyone who wants their question to be answered in terms of how they can find success online, please post your question right away. And in case, I think there is also a streaming issue. So I think I'll just give an example myself of
perfect. One of the clients that maybe you worked with.
Yes, yeah. So from friends I know who are in the startup space and who are working with different businesses. So let's say, let's take the example of a business that used to actually manufacture T-shirts and would sell them locally and abroad. Now, a huge chunk of the work was based obviously on manufacturing, but then a huge chunk was also based on finding the right customers so that they can make the orders in bulk. Now, this company that I know of was not really that active online, and they were trying to just use their own personal contacts to find customers for whom they can make produce in bulk. So for a business who's just producing t-shirts, how would you go about it?
So I think that's a fantastic example. There's another one that I just thought of that we started working with a month before this COVID thing hit. So I'll share that one potentially as well. So think about what a company needs to chase. This is where we need to put on this data scientist and maybe even a business person kind of hat and say, okay, what's the purpose? Why is this company producing in bulk, right? Like, it's likely geographically based. What do we know about Pakistan? What do we know about like where the world sources its clothing, right? Where the world sources, it's essentially it's wholesale clothing. Of course, it's Pakistan. Of course, it's Vietnam. Of course, it's China. It's a number of these kinds of places. So it's not surprising to hear that. But now all of a sudden, we're going to have shipping restrictions. We're going to have production limitations. Every company, I don't care whether you're selling flowers, makeup, education, or t-shirts, you're chasing profit. So this is a great opportunity. This is a fantastic opportunity to actually switch from chasing bulk kinds of profits and being in a commodity space to building a unique and differentiated brand. And that's what's going to allow you to actually charge more and charge for and pivot your business. It's going to be a long time before the business goes back to what it was before. We've lost your feed, so I'm not sure if you can hear us. So I'm not sure how much of this I'm going to have to repeat, but
maybe you could just keep going just in case.
Just in case. Okay, I'm going to assume that. Hold on. Here we go. We just got a message from you here. Oh, all right. We're leading the show. Welcome to the Will and Tina Show. This is still going to be recording, and for those who are live with us, we are going to. There we go.
Oh, now you can see most of our space here.
Perfect. Wonderful. There we go. So until she comes back, we have a couple questions.
Oh, perfect. They can hear.
Wonderful. Okay.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you guys. We'll hand the show back whenever she joins in, whenever her connection issues resolve. She just sent us a message. Okay. Can you suggest that we can use Google tools? Yes. Okay. To find customers. Okay. So here is, and please keep the conversation going. We've stolen your show.
Oh, hello. I apologize. There was a connection issue, so it just got disconnected for a bit. I hope that's okay.
I hope you come back afterwards and rewatch this because we said some ridiculous things.
Oh, I missed it. Okay, go on. I'll just catch up to the conversation now.
I would love to know what Mambeen, what you do.
So rather than let me share how we now use Google tools. So kind of understanding what the situation is. Now we have to take a look at, make some assumptions and say, okay, is there an audience? Is there a potential business that we can find if we were to produce a different kind of, so who is looking for shirts? Who's looking for apparel? Who's looking for what things can we actually still produce that people want? So my assumption about this would be, okay, people are still buying clothing. They're willing to pay a premium, but we now need to, rather than be in a commodity space, how can we differentiate it? So maybe very specific sizes, maybe go after very specific fabric types, maybe go after very specific markets where messaging is going to be important, right? Okay.
So basically identifying your market niche, that's what you're talking about.
What I'd recommend is actually not only identifying a niche, but also thinking about like who the customer is going to be, and then having a couple different options, especially when time is an issue like it is right now. Most companies do not have enough runway to survive for a long period of time.
Yes.
Take 3 or 4 different niches and approach them as strategically as you can. The chances are that every one of those niches communicates differently, so you can try different platforms for different messaging to see what resonates.
Okay, so once you identify that niche, now what would be the next step in terms of finding customers online? So for example, if I were that manufacturer, I just write down the my target audience, like key characteristics and description in front of me, so I know who my customer looks like. Now, how would I go about finding that niche online?
Couple things. One, I'd use Google AdWords. Google AdWords gives you visibility into different searches anywhere in the world. And you can then see how much companies are prepared to pay to actually appear in front of their audiences for specific keywords in specific geographic areas, which gives you indication of demand, competition, and then gives you also ability to figure out, okay, what are the, like, going in and not being the first to market is going to be expensive. So going head on, especially, is not going to work. So this is where you now need to use either additional tools or spend more time in analytics and AdWords and Google Trends to figure out how can we further niche down into some of those, into those markets. So if people, for example, are looking for t-shirts with specific messaging, okay, now let's go after a market that's hyper specific. What searches, what things do they actually want their t-shirts to say?
Okay.
Maybe they need a specific shipping time. The nice thing about this is you can actually start looking at charging a heck of a lot more for an individual product. And this is also where you think about experience. If that one person does order, how do you make sure that they, what can you provide within the packaging, within the box, within the experience that they're going to have that's going to get them to post a picture of it? Do your marketing for
That's important. Yeah.
Here's something. Starbucks does this. They used to do this a fair bit, but they used to take whenever. I'm not sure if you guys have Starbucks. I'm sure you have Starbucks.
No, we don't have Starbucks over here, unfortunately. Okay. No, so, not yet.
Okay, Starbucks I thought was this universal example. I'll still use it, but so here is the experience. Like they're very high end. They charge a lot for essentially a commodity product. But what they started asking clients who come in is, hey, what's your name? And when they ordered, so they could write the name on the cup. Seems like a standard kind of thing. What they do is they misspell very specific name or very generic names.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that a lot.
Right.
So what's the reasoning behind it?
You tell me. Let's think through this. Why would Starbucks misspell the name David or John or Aisha? Very simple. Because then someone looks at it and say, how did they misspell this? All of a sudden, this becomes content that you take a picture of, you share on your Facebook, your Instagram, your Snapchat, your TikTok. It's like, Starbucks can't spell this. Starbucks doesn't care about spelling things, but they just got out in front of all of your friends, and you tell people that, hey, I'm a Starbucks follower. Anyone who looks up to me is now like, oh, you can't pay for that kind of advertising. What you can do is misspell. Not saying that people should misspell names, but what is that experience that's going to share your brand in front of other people?
So William, I feel that's a really important point that you just highlighted, to create such an experience which is shareable on our social media platforms. So as long as something which triggers us, and I feel for that it's very important to take a deep dive into a customer's psychology, the inner workings of their mind. How do they experience the day? How do they feel on a day-to-day basis? So I do remember doing this assignment on Doritos a couple of years back, and Doritos uses a similar approach to map out their own customer experience. So they've identified the market that, okay, we have teenagers who are going to consume this specific brand of Doritos during these times of the day. So this is what our target customer is doing. So they wake up at this time, they sleep at this time, they go to school during these hours. These are their munching times. And that's how they decided to plan their advertising and their branding.
I think that's a really interesting. I think that's a great way of looking at it, making it very customer centric. There's a question, but I wanted to answer that. Let me get to one example first, and or you want to do it? Okay,
Yeah.
get the question.
Are you sure? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was a question. I hope I say your name right. How do I pronounce that?
Yeah, so it's Zulfikar Ali, and he's asking that how can we use online advertising of a personal brand as coaches and trainers? So we have a lot of coaches, mentors, motivational speakers, people who are in the service industry. And because our service industry was governed by face-to-face interaction primarily, so it has taken a big hit that way.
Yeah.
So he's asking that how can we use this online medium for this purpose?
Awesome. That's an awesome question. If you go onto Google Trends, you'll see that people are looking for online courses right now. So if you can teach something, it can be very small. So let's imagine that you're a personal trainer and you used to coach people in their homes or at a gym. What you could do is start things like Instagram lives and teach about personal training. And then you can post for free on Instagram, on Facebook, and give people tips on how to train themselves at home. So it doesn't matter what kind of coach you are, the same process applies. Teach what you know, give away the content for free, and then people will reach out. People love learning. So if you can teach your skill online, please, by all means, do that.
Thank you, Tina. Yes, William?
I'd love to extend on that. It's fine. I speak loudly. So here's one thing. A lot of people are concerned about giving away their product, their service for free. It's like, why would I give it away for free? People should be paying for it.
Yeah.
You're missing the point. The people who are potentially consuming your content for free are not likely going to be your clients. They're never going to pay for content. They're looking for it for free. And unless you've somehow figured out the most unique training, personal coaching, or whatever technique in the world, which I promise you haven't, of the 8 billion people out there, there's someone who does it and who's potentially been doing it for longer. What they're trying to do, what you're trying to do is build trust, build authority,
build a brand, show expertise.
Of all of the people you'll reach, a tiny portion of them are going to want to interact with you personally
because they like your message.
Yes.
Right? Why does Tony Robbins create Netflix shows? Why does Tony Robbins write books that are accessible for a small
everyone? Yeah.
Right. It's because it's not like
nobody's
he's like
paying for that.
Exactly. My personal knowledge is so guarded, no one can have that.
Yes, we have that sentiment, and it's really common over here, I feel.
I know.
It is in a lot of places.
It is in a lot of places. Right now is the best time to do this. Not because it's like you're not doing anything, likely. In which case, try different tools. What didn't work for what you're doing isn't working right now. Try something different and learn from massive celebrities, massive personalities, and massive personal brands online. Figure out what they're doing and how you can do it for your market and for your audience.
And they do give away great quality online for free. So many digital platforms are doing that. And that content is just not something that, you think that it's a bluff. It's something that you can actually derive valuable lessons from and actually apply in your day-to-day life or your work. So if they're doing it for a reason, and I'm sure it really doesn't hurt their own ability to sell as well.
It's promotion.
Fact,
and if I could just jump in and say, look, this is the best way of getting, in effect, free advertising. And if in that group and in that setting, you can give away something that leaves someone thinking or remembering who you are. Next time they have a conversation about that topic, about a business, about something that you discussed that they touch on, it's like, oh, I know. I'm trying to remember the name here. There we go. Zulfikar. What's the right pronunciation? I'm gonna mess this up.
Zulfikar. It's Zulfikar Ali.
Zulfikar Ali. If the next time they think about that topic and you're the first person they think about or have a discussion with someone, and if then your funnel, your path has here's the product, here's the service, here is the consulting, here's the online Zoom call that you can book with me to get more in depth on that specific topic, that's how you make money.
So before we move on to the next question, we'll take that in a bit. I would like to ask another question in terms of design. So Tina, since you're the Chief Brand Officer at Hiilite, and I've seen your work, I've been following your work for the past 2 years. You create great designs. So I would want to know that what role does design play in building an effective online presence or building an effective brand? And some tips and tricks that you would like to share towards building great design.
Oh, that's awesome. Will and I were just discussing this. Yeah, it really depends on what you do. So for example, if you are selling, let's say a product, and it is, say you're selling tea and you're selling it to a high-end market, you want to think about how does high-end luxury design look? And we want to match and mirror that design on our products. But if we're selling something that is, I need an example of
down market or commodity
down
space.
market. What's an example of a product that would be down market?
Clothing or specific
maybe
clothing or mugs or like something that you can source relatively inexpensively.
Think of Alibaba. Like if you go on that platform, it's not designed super pretty, but it gets the point across, and that's a huge platform that makes a lot in profit. So it really depends on what you're selling. So where I would start is if I was designing a product or starting an online store, I would look at what the competitors are doing and try to mirror what they're doing. And then rather than reinventing the wheel, because right now it's about getting content out there and not worrying too much about making it perfect.
There's one thing that I'd love for Tina to respond. Hassan mentions the example he gave of Starbucks misspelling their customer name to entice them to post a picture as far as a reputation risk. We talk a lot about why people want to follow a brand. We keep thinking about having this really polished, finalized brand. This is something like, this is part of that, what I think I really want to address with this.
About reputation?
No, about like people being on, like, people want to follow you for the journey, to see your growth, to see, so yes. Mistakes are not.
Yeah, that's a really good one. So to answer the Starbucks question about misspelling customers' name and getting a bad reputation, Will's exactly right. People love watching the journey. When you don't know exactly where you're going, if it's not perfect, share that experience, because now that makes you very relatable and people feel safe with you. If you're too polished, if you're too perfect, people don't feel like they can engage with you. They can't, because they're nervous and they don't sound just like you. So having something misspelled and making it funny, it works for them. And I think there's context behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's one more. I actually had a conversation with a gentleman from Washington, state of Washington, outside of Seattle yesterday. He reached out through Facebook. He found a video that we did 3 years ago on SEO. I would change everything about that video and about that message. But he said something. He said, "Hey, I really liked, like, you look like a person I could trust and have a conversation with." And we talked about outsourcing to different parts of the world. And he's like, "I don't want to outsource to India. I've been there. What we get is not." And he's like, "I can trust you." He's never met me. So we jumped on a call, and we will likely be working on a project together. So it's not about presenting the perfect finalized product. It's about making yourself accessible and vulnerable and actually authentic.
And building that relationship of trust and not just locking yourself away that, you think that you're unreachable and no one can reach you. And in order to reach you, they have to go through someone junior to you and so on and so forth. I think accessibility, vulnerability, and empathy is key for trust building relationships.
Yes. Yeah. You have a big background in that. I'd love to know your opinion on empathy right now.
So I feel just as you just mentioned, that making yourself vulnerable and just a simple act of responding to every person who contacts you, who reaches out to you, despite the fact that your inbox is like flooded with messages. I feel that that speaks volumes, and giving that person attention to each and every individual, and not always with the intent of getting something done. Okay, oh, I'll have a benefit out of it. He's good for business, or he or she is not good for business. Just being there as a human being and hearing the other person out. I feel that is key, especially in these times. It's just not about business. I feel it's about being human right now and truly, truly connecting with the essence of our own spirits.
I couldn't agree more, and you said it perfectly. So yeah,
beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, be there, be authentic, be in front of people, be helpful. Well done.
So, Tina, in terms of design, I've been really fascinated by design myself. I've been watching a lot of documentaries on, typography and how to get it right and how to create that look, the balance, and everything. So, would you like to share a few tips and tricks on someone who's just a beginner in design? Like, where should they learn from? How should they go about it and polish the sense of design? Because aesthetics are really important when it comes to design. So getting those right is key.
Yeah. Well, we're really lucky that we have YouTube. Do you have YouTube? Yes. Of course.
It's not in China, so that's why
we're not in China.
So YouTube is an excellent platform to learn design. There are so many people who are passionate about great design who can teach you really simple tools and tips and tricks to get really good at design. I would start there and just get comfortable working with the tools. Also, a pen and paper is a great place to start. Even the most talented designers use a pen and paper, and their sketches aren't always that nice and pretty. So don't be afraid to, if you can draw a stick man, if you can draw something, start sketching, get your ideas out on paper. Maybe you like writing, you can start there, but definitely checking out YouTube would be a great place to start.
So any special channels or names that you would like to recommend who are really good at teaching this? Because there's a lot of content out there on YouTube and it's difficult to sift through for quality content.
Typography, yes. So go to the future. I don't know if we can put in the chat. I don't know if you can leave a comment, Will. But the future, it's called, it's spelled THE, and then the future is FUTUR.
Yeah.
And our mentor, Chris Doe, teaches a typography course that's really well done. And I highly, highly recommend it. We have applied a lot of his processes to our business for design, and he's a fantastic mentor. I would highly recommend Chris Doe.
So for the audience, I will share the name of their mentor with you when I post the final version of this video, so that you can check out the links that they suggest during the live streaming, and you can develop your own sense of design and aesthetics and find the right way of going about it. So going forward, so when it comes to Google AdWords, and William, this is for you, since Google AdWords seems to be your area or your territory. So what strategy do we develop to use Google AdWords successfully, and how do Google AdWords contribute to top line performance? Because I've seen people using Google AdWords and not being good at it and failing miserably as well. And I feel I was one of them back in my days of MBA when we were given a Google AdWords assignment, and I just did not know how to go about it.
For sure. And I think that there are a lot of people who fall into that boat. And so as far as learning for design for AdWords, there's so many great resources, and there are actually some really good resources available right now for free to get even better at those things. But where I think a lot of people make a mistake is focusing on one specific aspect. So AdWords, when you think about the digital funnel, I'm just going to think about the digital funnel, right? So you have at the very top of it, you have awareness, consideration, decision, and then action, right? So at the very Google AdWords will land into the awareness category or potentially in consideration. So what people just focus on, okay, how do I get clicks? How do I get, that's the easy part in AdWords. You just need to bid, and you need to find specific keyword combination. You need to be specific to get people back to your site. Where people typically fail isn't on targeting, because there's a lot of courses on that. It's the next, there we go. So depending, Tina's going to pull up, there we go. There we go.
So here is a digital funnel.
There
Yes, I do remember studying that in my marketing course.
Perfect.
Okay.
We just posted a video, posted a series of videos on our YouTube. So if you go to hiilite.com, and from the top right-hand corner, there's a YouTube link. Posted a couple of videos recently, and I mentioned the digital funnel, so you can find some images of that there. But what happens then is, okay, so you have the audience, and this is where Google AdWords becomes really powerful, when you understand what happens after they do the click. So are they staying on? Are we targeting the right people? Are they actually interested? Are they bouncing away? Are you actually transacting with them? If they're not, and if your product or service is something that takes multiple exposures, are you remarketing to them? Are you using Google AdWords to potentially using the display network to gain awareness? So there's there's a lot of information there, and I could teach courses on this as far as what to consider. If you're considering the pricing side, there's a specific metric within Google AdWords it's called the quality score, which relates the ads and the language that you're using and the market that you're going after to how Google looks at your content on the landing page, which means Google is aware of what's happening. Google's measuring efficacy, not across only your campaign, but across a ton of other campaigns to make some assumptions. So make sure that you look at quality score, look at the conversions, look at the transactions, look at remarketing opportunities, and look at different touch points. People often think about, okay, I'm going to get AdWords, get people to the site. Okay. But if there's an opportunity, or if there's a segment of your audience that actually prefers to pick up a phone and give you a call, or actually send you a text message, or fill out a contact form, make sure that you segment them really, really, really very specifically and provide the journey that's most likely going to get them to convert.
Yeah.
So use the tools, look at the numbers. That's the data scientist hat I mentioned before.
And if you have any questions during the funnel process and you want to reach out to us, maybe I'll reach out to you and give you Will's email or a studio email, and you guys can have a conversation with one of our analysts.
Absolutely.
So I'll also be sharing William and Tina's email address after this conversation. So if anyone has any questions related to the topic or wants to know more, so they're ready to be there for you and help you out on that. So great. So William, so for someone who's a beginner in Google AdWords, would you recommend any digital tool to get started that's easy to understand and that gets the process of segmentation just right, so that once you launch it, you're doing it effectively rather than just wasting time and resources?
Right. So there are a ton of really good resources, but where I'd actually start is the Google specific resources. So Google provides, there's the Google Academy, or there are learning tools and tests that are free that you can take to become Google certified, AdWords certified, YouTube ads certified, display ads certified, shopping ads certified. So you can actually start segmenting down into the specific market, or so niching down in the specific market that you're most interested in or most relevant in. So yeah, the Google Academy is probably the best one I'd start with.
Any success stories that you would like to share from Hiilite, that where you applied Google AdWords and your customers, they experience an increase in their conversion rates and their engagement and so on and so forth?
I can share if you
I think you should talk about Julie.
Okay, I'll talk about a couple different ones. We actually have some case studies. I think we're actually designing one of the landing pages for it right now to talk about the case studies. But there's one, for example, that we worked with a hotel, and with a $4,000 ad spend, we had $63,000 in booked revenue. That's I think 1,800% or whatever that, I can't remember, like return on investment. And there are tons of those that we have. But the one that's I think most interesting is the one that we started, there's a client that we started working with right before COVID hit. They're a brick and mortar business. They have multiple mall locations. So they're called Porsche Ella. And all of a sudden they needed to make this switch into digital because the stores are shut down and everyone's gone home. They've been around for 5 years. The average or the best month they had to date until we started working with them was 3,000. So they're traditional, like very focused on traditional. In the first 30 days, it was over 30,000. So from the point we started working with them, where AdWords played a huge role. What we ended up learning in really quickly, and this is like completely on to credit to our team, is the client came in and said, "Hey, look, this is where we're going. We're going after the clean market, the green like makeup market. Like these are the keywords that we want to target." And they said, "Okay, we'll hear what you have to say." And we within days learned that is a really competitive space. It's really expensive, and conversions are practically impossible. So we started getting into very specific branded approaches, people looking for very specific kinds of product that they only had access to, very specific conditions, skin conditions, very specific needs. So niching down, and then presenting in front of those. The ROI or the return on those was unbelievably high compared to the really competitive space. And that was just by looking at what's working, what's not working, pivoting quickly, and then also understanding like what the clients are looking for.
So a traditional business that's planning to go digital at this point in time. So how should this start? Should it start with social media? Should it start with Google AdWords? What should be the starting point for such kind of a business?
I'll answer yes to all of those. The truth is, all of those will work. I often draw your market as essentially one whole pie chart. And what you've been addressing is a sliver of that pie chart by the way you've been doing business. So of the people who will find out about you, for example, some of them will find out about you through a referral alone. If you have a billboard or if you have an ad or if you have a newspaper ad or if you have a TV spot, people only ever find you on those platforms. The rest of that pie is open to other people that you can make aware to your product or service in some other way. So it can be Facebook, it can be Instagram, it can be Snapchat, it can be TikTok, it can be YouTube, it can be your website, it can be affiliate marketing, it can be other marketplaces, it can be affiliate networks, it can be like literally hundreds of other things. So do all of them.
Yeah, and one of the things that I would recommend if this overwhelms you, if you're feeling overwhelmed by
that's
doing
typical.
digital, it can be, right? Unless you do it every day, digital marketing and going online can be very stressful and scary. One of the things our client applied, who was a brick and mortar store and had to go online, was she called all of her clients individually and let them know that they could purchase the product online. So she went through her customer database and gave them all a call, not only to check in on them, but to see if they wanted to buy products from them. So that's something you can do today and start right away. Well, I guess it's evening for you. So maybe Monday morning, start giving your clients a call, your customers a call, and checking in and seeing if they need any help.
There's a question right there. It says, "Hi, I'm a banker." So Ruma Malik, is that?
This is, let me see. Hi, I'm a banker. How can I promote our products while working in this lockdown, like work from home? So for the banking industry and for banking products, what would you like to recommend?
So think about the interaction. I feel like I'm sounding like a broken record as far as the client interaction. If you're a banker, what are most of the interactions you're going through? It's not transactional. It's likely informational. People want to find out more about that specific products or have some very specific questions. Make yourself accessible across those platforms to answer those questions. The delivery of financial products can now be almost entirely done online. So if people are looking for, hey, I need a credit product, I need a loan, I need something. Hey, how can I interact with you to tell you what we're looking for, or what kind of what numbers we're looking for, or if they have specific questions, when they're ready to take a loan and actually see you in person, if that's the requirement. Hey, that's the person who actually helped answer those questions, help calm me down, help introduce me to other businesses where that are their clients. Clearly, I'm very excitable about that.
So would you recommend like reaching out on telephone to the prospective clients of a bank just to, like sell the bank's products and services? Because in Pakistan, I feel that when we get a call from a bank, some of us like get agitated and we're like, oh, this is just an inconvenience. We feel that it's being pushed down our throats. We sometimes get that feeling. So for customers who don't like being told about banking channels products through telephone, what would be the best way digitally to go about it?
I was going to say too, on that note, I know the feeling, and we've all had that feeling where someone calls and you feel like people are pressuring you, and just starting that conversation, saying that would help somebody relax. So if we were on a call and I was selling my service to you and I said, hi, I know this is frustrating getting a sales call. I know it's a little bit annoying and redundant, but I would love to just chat with you for a minute. That could really ease some of the stress off of the person receiving the call.
When we train our staff, when we train our people, we do a lot of role playing. So I think doing that in a way that isn't the same thing everybody else is doing. Hey, I'm this person, I'm calling to sell you something. Yeah. And actually, I'll give you an example. I just got a call a few days ago from my cell phone provider. And it was not at all the call that I've received from them hundreds of times before, or from similar companies before. They should just call and say, hey, how are you? How's it going? Are you okay? Is there something like we're just calling our customers to figure out there's some relief programs in some cases. We just wanted to see how you're doing. We have some promotions if you're interested, but
we're just calling in to check in on you.
For sure.
When the audience size is great. So we have this question from Hidesh, and he's asking, how do you get massive audience in your business? I mean, which strategies you apply to catch a massive audience? So for lead generation purposes, sometimes, you need to generate a pool so that you can like shorten it down, and you then generate some key leads that you can follow. Yeah, exactly. The funnel. Exactly. So how do you go about mass marketing, especially in times of COVID, and keeping into consideration that this is content overload and an information overload? So it's like too much content of all types and nature being thrown at you through digital platforms. So what would be the best way as a business to stand out in the midst of all of this noise?
So there are I don't want this to sound cliche, and I don't want this to sound predictable, but there are so many great tools right now that will give you a massive audience for effectively free. If you have access to TikTok, if you have access to Instagram, to Facebook, to Snapchat, you can grow a massive audience really, really quickly. Mm-hmm. The truth is, if you're growing a massive audience and your first consideration is how do I get as many people out there as possible, you're potentially asking the wrong question. It's how do I reach as many of the right kinds of people with the right message? Mm-hmm. You need to figure out what your message is, grow your audience. Tina's lives now reach the entire world. It's impressive who actually watches them on Instagram, who follows her, who reaches out to her. She's been doing this for a long time. It's actually growing. I think it's been 2 years now.
It's been about a year and a half.
Year and a half. So like
it takes time.
It takes time, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't start and figure out what that value proposition is and start growing that audience. But yeah, there are a lot of tools. But
any tips tips and tricks to use social media more effectively, especially in times of COVID-19, to connect to the right customer at the right time? What would you like to suggest in this regard?
So one thing to consider is if you're producing the exact same content everybody else is, which is a lot of what's happening right now, you're not going to make a lot of it. You're going to be my background is in engineering. We talk about signal to noise ratio. There's very little value to your message if it sounds exactly the same in a crowd of a lot of other noise. So how do you make your message so focused on the audience that you're going after? So as far as there's going to be some very specific platform considerations, but for most of them, it's making sure that you're visually interesting and differentiated. Your message is clear, focused, and differentiated. Make sure that you're appearing in the right places. And this is where hashtags make a heck of a lot of sense. Tagging is really important. Cross promotion, leveraging other audiences to actually grow yours is extremely important. And most of those platforms will have those mechanisms in place that you can leverage.
Okay, so from what I gather is that cross-posting is very important, and then having the right content which is visually, which catches attention and which is clear and focused and direct, rather than too much clutter or like too much information. Because I feel that when people are going through stress, they struggle with information processing on a mental level. So at those times, especially more important to be as clear and as direct as possible in terms of your communication.
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
That's really well said. Yes.
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 So we have another question over here from Fahad Hassan, and he's asking that isn't Facebook or Insta AdWords considered better than Google AdWords, as they seem a bit more noticeable since people use these platforms a lot more often than Google in their spare time. So according to Fahad, I think he's trying to ask whether social media like Facebook and Insta is more effective as compared to Google AdWords in promoting your brand. Because people look online through social media.
We field a lot of these kinds of questions and a lot of these kinds of statements. And rather than giving you my opinion, I'll just ask you a question. What's a better transportation method, a car or a motorcycle? Depends. It fully depends, right? It depends on your need. It depends on what's accessible. It depends on your road. It depends on a whole bunch of different things. These platforms are the very same. Depends on who you are. Depends on what your message is. Depends on who you're trying to reach. Depends on the time of day you're trying to reach them. Depends on your designability. Depends on your unique brand. There are a lot of considerations. We've seen brands even now just crush it on Facebook. And we've been part of campaigns that have absolutely killed it on Instagram or on display ads. We've seen things that should have worked brilliantly on Google or on either platform fail miserably. So there isn't a clear winner. What you're going after is understanding broken record, understanding your audience. So yeah.
So I will another question that comes to my mind, and sorry for like that interruption. So when you're posting online, especially through social media channels, I feel a lot of people don't go about creating a strategy, and that strategy is key to getting it right. So people just design a post and just like post it away without making that connection to their own brand. What does it stand for? What values is it trying to communicate? So can you talk a bit about marketing strategy, brand strategy, and how does it connect to what we communicate and how we communicate?
Oh, that's a great question. This is one that I love and I'm always trying to decode. And I think what I would say is just start off small. Start off with baby steps. The word strategy can feel very overwhelming and people don't know where to start. So if you can post 1 day per week and research really effective strategies while you do that, that is a really great way to start. So if Mondays you can post one thing onto social media about what it is you do and how you can help people, that's a great place to start. And then research strategies that are effective in your field while you do it. So I think a lot of people, they think about the strategy and they think and they think and they think, but they never act. So I would just start putting content out while you strategize.
Paralysis by analysis. It happens all the time. I think people,
Well said, paralysis by analysis. That's true.
people often overthink, and I feel like I may have said a couple things that are probably too technically like. I think what Tina said is absolutely right and absolutely brilliant, and that is start with small steps. And whatever platform you choose, if you listen to anyone who said, if you go down the Google route, there's always someone who's going to say you're an idiot. Go down the Facebook route. If you're on a Wix as a platform, or Squarespace or WordPress, there's always someone who's going to tell you it's the wrong platform. Don't listen to them. If you're applying one methodology, there's going to be millions of people who tell you that that's the wrong way to go. Don't listen to them. There is no playbook for what's happening in May 2020 on any of these platforms. We get to write those rules, and anybody can actually figure out what that is. And this is why some of these social platforms have some of these meteoric rises in influencers, because they have figured something out for themselves with their brand.
That's great. And I feel it's become all the more relevant now. So one thing that I would also like your advice on and suggestion also, I feel that a retail industry right now, especially when it comes to clothing, is quite suffering. Because in Pakistan, retail was mostly in person. We would want to go to the shopping mall to check out our clothes. We would like to feel the fabric before purchasing it. Now, those retailers are struggling in terms of selling off their stock because since we are all working from home and we're not going out, we don't feel the need to buy more expensive flashy clothes as well. So for those retailers who were used to doing business traditionally, especially in the garments industry, how can they change in terms of the product firstly, and what branding or marketing strategies can they come up with to still be able to sell even in these times?
So the truth is, I can think of a dozen things to do, and I can spend the next hour talking about it. But where I would actually start is, if I have the product and I can actually access it, and I know that there are clients who either traditionally got to see me, I would call them. I would set up Zoom calls. I would set up Facebook calls. I would set up some way, WhatsApp or whatever else, and walk them through the product. Tell them how it feels. Show them what the process is. Show them my inventory. Show them what I currently have. Show them and convince them that every person who's handling it either has a mask or is concerned about COVID, making sure that when it's packaged, it's done safely. And when it arrives to them, it's been handled in a way that doesn't have any transmission, doesn't have any concern. If you need to disinfect it somehow, there's 100 different ways of doing that. Reach out to that client. If you know who they are, if you know clients who purchased from you before, they're probably going to purchase from you again. They just don't know how. Find the how.
From what I understand is that communication is key in terms of coming up with that. So you still need to stay connected to your end consumer and just find out what they need. So probably reaching out. And if I were to talk about clothing, so for example, we go out and we buy, so ladies especially, they like buying different outfits to go out to parties and like go to office and so on and so forth. So and those outfits are sold in like malls. For example, Nordstrom, William, I do recall that at UBC our class used to go out and check out Nordstroms over there. For example, the fashion outlets that were there, like Zara and all. So for outlets like Zara, what would be like the best way, fast fashion products to innovate in COVID times?
Love it. Great question. So we just ordered, I actually just ordered from Zara. So there are people who still need clothing. Maybe the people you're traditionally interfacing with may be stuck at home and they don't do it. But the people like you, like us, like the ones who are trying to get online and need to present, how do we get in front of them? Not only that, but if you can find, like if your market shrinks drastically, let's say to 5% of what it was before, the people who are buying from you are connected and friends with other people exactly like them. How do you ask them for a referral? How do you ask them to get your brand, your clothing, your product, your service in front of the other people who are really likely?
That's great advice.
And so communication, you're right, is key. The right kind of communication is even more important.
Yeah, Mabeen, you're exactly right about making people trust you and being there. That's absolutely correct. And I love that you said that.
Yeah, there's a huge trust component. I mentioned the story of the gentleman I spoke with last night. It's all about building the relationship in business. The transactional types of business that happen out there, the commodity types of business, this is where building your brand, building your personal brand will help you build that relationship that will allow you to have that conversation.
Great. So I'll just move on to a last question. And if the audience has any further questions regarding building your online presence, marketing, branding, and strategy, please feel free to ask. So the last question on my list for today is, how do you find what's trending and where to focus? So what would you like to share about that?
Sorry, what's trending and what's the second part of that question?
Yeah, so what's trending and knowing where you should focus in terms of selling your brand.
Google Trends. Go on there, it's free and it's really simple to use. That's a really great place to start. Maybe you can expand.
I'll give Tina's answer, and that is look at the conversations you're having across your social platforms. Your clients or your friends or people you're connected to are telling you exactly where the opportunities are. You just need to actually listen to what they're saying, by the kinds of questions they're asking, by the things that they're posting, the things that they're looking at, will give you insight into where you should be focusing.
So Google Trends is one place to look at, and social listening. There are also some mediums through which we can actually do social listening as well. Yes. Are there any that you can share from the top of your mind?
I can, and Tina was actually right. The Google Trends is a really good place to go. Google Trends gives you not only search like volumes, but also search across YouTube, which is the second most popular search engine in the world. So it gives you a really good idea of what's happening, what people are posting, what people are searching. So it's extremely important to figure out how to use that well.
So how to incorporate that within your brand and your brand identity, because at the end of the day, you need to address what people are truly thinking deep inside. And a lot of us just like Google search away whatever thought that comes to our mind. Quora is a place where a lot of people go to find typical answers. So yes. Sometimes you think that you've come up with a unique question yourself, and the moment you plug it into Google search or Quora, you find that someone else on this planet has already asked, and you think, oh wow, I thought that was unique.
Absolutely. So, think about there's another one. I'm an avid Redditor, and that could be a really good one. Look at trends in specific subreddits there. Look at social platforms. You'll likely already be connected to either channels or influencers or sources of this kind of information that you can start getting a little bit of, the data scientist had again, like some indications what the trends are. It's just a matter of niching down or following those trends to figure out where you can actually provide or you can focus your efforts to find the opportunity.
Great. So has anyone any further questions? Because William and Tina are here to answer your questions regarding brands and marketing. Yeah, someone just asked, I was just going through a question posted earlier, that since everyone is using this time to broaden their customer base, how do we present ourselves in a unique way to attract customers? So I think the visual identity part that you spoke of earlier, I think that would factor in. Is there anything else that one can use to stand out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think thinking about doing stuff like this, so doing a live. Now, if you're connecting with somebody that has a really large following, say you only have 100 followers on your personal Instagram and you've connected now with somebody that has 500 followers and you do a live with them, now you've just increased your follower count by 500 because now you're tapping into their network. And if you take a photo of it, take a photo of your live when you go live and post it, now you look like you have more influence. So it's doing little things like that. And what's nice is that's free. And now you're building community and connection. So it's a really, really great way to advertise without spending too much time.
Great. So since we do not have further questions, I think that's all for today.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for coming over.
Thank you so much for having us, for inviting us. Thank you so much for introducing us to your network and the people who follow you. Those questions were fantastic. If anyone wants to reach out to us, our company name is there. So hit us up on the contact form or find us through our social media. We'll both be watching it. But thank you so much. I'd love to hear more about what some of the issues are. Maybe there's some other opportunities that we can help with.
Awesome. So I'll share your contact details with the audience after this video is posted. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can do that effectively. And it was great talking to both of you. I learned a lot myself because this is one area which especially catches my own attention too, especially the design part of it. I'm really drawn to the aesthetics and getting the design right. And at present, I'm also like mentoring one of my employees to, sharpen her sense of design and aesthetics so that we can come up with great visuals. So yes, thank you for the tools. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're ending the broadcast over here. Thank you, everyone. Take care and have a good day.